Have you ever told yourself that on Monday, I'm gonna start going to the gym, I'm gonna work out, follow a diet plan, and you feel very motivated and eager to start. But then life happens. You have to stay longer at work. Your friends, family need you. You have social obligations and you just feel exhausted. And midweek, you skip a new workout session, you slip on your diet, and you feel frustrated because you feel like you're starting over and over again every Monday. Does that sound familiar? I know that happened to me. So in this video, I want to go over the neuroscience behind consistency, motivation, why we procrastinate. We're going to talk about things like identity shift, habit loop, dopamine, and practical strategies that we can do to make the workouts consistency automatic. So let's get started. I do believe that in order to accomplish any goal that is worthwhile pursuit, that is difficult, it takes time, consistency, and delayed gratification, that will be require a discipline and willpower. And discipline and willpower is a skill that can improve over time with practice. However, willpower and discipline is limited, and we cannot only rely on those skills because the way our brain is wired makes this whole process of delayed gratifications, doing the things that we need to do, even though sometimes we don't feel like doing them, more difficult. And I think that if we can understand and have better awareness of how our brain is wired, we can develop more intelligent and successful strategies to approach our goals, be consistent with pursuit of those goals and actually accomplishing those goals. So let's talk about how our brain is wired that makes this whole process of consistency, pursuing goals, and this process a little more difficult when it comes down to, for example, workouts, sticking to your nutrition, and so on and so forth. There's that phenomena that is called evolutionary cost-benefit analysis. Your brain evolved to conserve energy because thousands of years ago, when the food sources were scarce, it was foolish for you to frivolously expend energy because that meant life and death situation. If you don't have food sources coming in, or it's difficult to gather food because you had to find the animals, hunt, gather the food, your brain had to develop to analyze if the effort that you're gonna put into that behavior is worth the reward. If it was not, or if it was vague, like for example, going to the gym and maybe in 6 months you're gonna look better, your brain thought that this is not a good idea. Then the dopamine deficit reward prediction error. When our reward comes, we have a release of dopamine, but if the reward doesn't come or is delayed, the dopamine drops. And that's called reward prediction error. And when the dopamine, there is no reinforcement of behavior. And that happens a lot when we first start working on our fitness goals. For example, in the first week when you're going to the gym, you're expecting to feel better, but you feel tired, you feel sore, you feel beat up. Mentally, you feel also defeated because you realize how unfit you are and you compare yourself to other people. And you look the same in the mirror, right? So there's no dopamine hit and no reinforcement of the behavior. That's why the starting of your fitness journey is more difficult. Later, you realize that actually going to the gym makes you feel better. It allows you to de-stress, gives you energy, you sleep better. But that's not necessarily the case at the beginning when you start working out. Then we have procrastination paradox. On one hand, your prefrontal cortex understands the long-term goals, but your striatum, I don't know how to pronounce that word, but it's one of the other part of your brain is wired to make you feel comfortable and safe. That's why oftentimes things like relaxing and chilling on the couch, watching Netflix, eating comfort food like chips, pizza, scrolling on Instagram wins oftentimes over going to the gym. So your brain default is kind of fighting against you because that's how it is wired, again, to make you feel comfortable and safe. Then we have the fear of discomfort. your anterior cingulate cortex, I think that's how you pronounce it, exaggerate and amplifies how difficult an event or a behavior it will be to keep you safe and keep you comfortable. And that imagination is oftentimes much more difficult than the actual reality. Like for example, let's say you come back from work, you're tired, you're exhausted, then you're thinking, man, I have to change, go to the car, drive to the gym, and do all that hard workout that I have to do. I just don't feel it. I'm just exhausted mentally. I just would rather relax. But once you're in the gym and you start doing your warm-ups, start moving, start sweating a little bit, you're kind of going with the motion, then you're like, man, I actually can do that, and that doesn't feel as bad. So oftentimes your brain exaggerates how difficult an event will be than the actual reality to keep you comfortable. That's why starting the initial activation of something takes the most amount of energy. Like for example, initial start of the rocket that explodes to the sky. That takes the most amount of energy. But Newton's law, once the object is in motion, it stays in motion. So once you're doing something, is much easier. So the starting is the hardest thing. And then we have the habit loop breakdown. Initially, it takes consistent effort, repetitive effort with your workouts, but then over time, once you are consistent with your workouts, your dorsolateral striatum takes over and makes that behavior automatic. That is, doesn't require so much cognitive or brain energy, doesn't take as much willpower. It just becomes something that you're doing automatically. It's a habit, like brushing your teeth in the morning, or tying your shoes, or driving a car. You're not necessarily thinking about those things as much, just doing them automatically. And that's when the habit is created. We call this neuroplasticity. But if you're skipping your workouts, if you're not consistent with them, then your brain doesn't have enough time and repetition to solidify the habit loop, and the habit doesn't truly form if you're constantly skipping your workouts. That's why it makes difficult, if you're not consistent with your workouts, to become a part of your routine or a habit or your lifestyle. So now, since we know that willpower and discipline is not enough, and the way our brain is wired makes this whole process of consistency and pursuing our goals long-term more difficult. Now, let's talk about strategies to change our environment and identity and approaches that's gonna allow us, our brain, to work for us instead of against us. First is micro wins and dopamine pulses. Small wins, small successes releases dopamine in your brain, which causes the reinforcement of the behavior. That's when the cue, action, and habit loop is formed. So if you're focusing on things such as, for the last 4 weeks, I've been consistent in going to the gym 2 times a week, and I didn't break this streak. I was going to bed and waking up at the same time, and I was consistently getting around 7 hours of sleep. I consistently been eating 3 whole foods, good quality, nutritious foods. And if you're focusing on those wins, and you actually can visually see a streak, or you're crossing on the calendar your chain that you actually completed what you needed to complete it, and you're not breaking that chain, that visual progress that you actually can see releases dopamine in your brain, which prevents from that dopamine prediction error or reward prediction error, and allows you to create that loop. It causes your motivation to stay high because you see progress, and that's gonna allow you to stick with the process when you have those small wins. Now, I purposely mentioned behavioral actions that you can actually control, not necessarily outcome goals like I lost 5 pounds, I increased 10 pounds or on the bench press, because those things are outside of your control. Yes, we do want to celebrate those wins as well. I'm not saying no, but if we're focusing on process goals, on the actions that we can actually control and celebrate those things, the byproduct of it will be the outcome goals, which is that I lost 10 pounds, I get more stronger, so on and so forth. And we're focusing on the behavioral goals or action goals. That's gonna allow us to create behaviors, lifestyle, and habits that's gonna move us closer to our goals. Next strategy is pre-commitment strategy. to make skipping your workouts more difficult than actually showing up. So for example, what you can do is sign up for a class, hire a coach that is waiting for you and you're paying him for services, having an accountability partner, because that's gonna take the decision-making effort and energy from your prefrontal cortex. The decision is already been decided, you don't have to think about it. And what helped me and my clients is schedule your workouts in the calendar, because oftentimes people say that the reason why they cannot go to the gym is because they don't have time. But the key is not necessarily lack of time, but lack of priority. If you do prioritize your health, if this is important to you, you're gonna make time and fit into your schedule. And I think it's important to have your workouts in the calendar, like make this as like an appointment, that this is something that just what you do, because that's gonna help you to create a routine and consistency. If you have an appointment, you're going to the same place at the same time, you're treating this as an appointment and you put it in the calendar, that's gonna help you to be much more consistent with your workouts and not skipping your workout sessions. Because if you're just kind of going to the gym whenever you feel like, whenever you have time, oh, maybe I'm gonna go, Wednesday to the gym, or maybe Friday, we'll see how I feel, see how much time I have, then you're gonna be skipping your workouts much more frequently. You're not gonna get the results and you're not gonna be able to solidify the habit of consistency and going to the gym. Another strategy is identity-based habit, shifting our mindset, the way we see working out and nutrition and taking care of our health and body. Instead of thinking like, oh man, I have to work out, I have to go to the gym, think of yourself, I'm a person who works out. I'm a person who eats healthy, because neural studies shows that the intrinsic motivation, our identity shift, increases your motivation and willingness to actually do something. If you're thinking about something that you just have to do, it's not strong enough. The intrinsic motivation is much stronger. Identify of yourself, who you are as a person. I'm sure you already have some type of identity of yourself. Like for example, I'm a male or I'm a female, and that associates with certain things, right? Or I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a boss, I'm an employee. We already have multiple identities that we associate those behaviors with those identities. So if you identify yourself and you're looking at yourself as a person who eats healthy, who is healthy, who works out, that intrinsic motivation is gonna help you to actually do the things. And another thing is, it's important to have a strong why, reminding yourself why this is important for you. Instead of having like vague goals, such as I just want to lose 10 pounds, it would be much stronger if you have a stronger and much more specific why. For example, I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of this year to be in my healthy body range, so I can be a role model for my kids, I can be healthy and be able to enjoy my life when I'm older and not worry about visiting doctors and spending money on medications, and be the best version of myself, so I can be role model for everyone around me. Having a strong goal or strong why and having that intrinsic motivation and identity shift is gonna make the behavior much stronger. It's gonna give you that willingness to do it than just vague statement, I have to go to the gym. And the last strategy is social accountability and gamification. Human beings are wired for tribal approval. Social rewards fire the same dopamine pathways like food or money. So that's why it's very effective if you have a coach who is keeping you accountable, or a training partner, or you're signing up for classes, or you belong to some type of a group of people who are like-minded, who exercise. That's why I believe that CrossFit was very successful, because it built that culture and social group of people that was very appealing. You felt like you're part of a tribe or a group. And I think it's also very important, your social environment, your friends circle and people who you're hanging out with. Because like if you're hanging out with a bunch of people who just party, don't care about their health and eating unhealthy, you're gonna kind of acquire those behaviors. It's gonna be difficult for you to be completely different from your social circle. And they might judge you, they might make comments on you, oh, why are you eating so healthy? Why are you doing this? And kind of try to bring you down. and that's not helpful. They're not supporting your goals. But if you surround yourself with people who are also like-minded, they value health, they exercise, they eat healthy, they support you, and they approve of what you're trying to accomplish instead of shaming you and judging you, that's also is going to be very important. So social circle, your environment, and people who you're hanging out with is going to be important. And gamification, things like badges, streak, milestones. When you see, like I said, on the calendar, you're not breaking the chain of your consistency with your workout. You see that, man, I've been consistent with my workout, my nutrition for the last 3 months. That's also that visual cue is going to allow you to have more dopamine release. It's going to give you more motivation and confidence, and you're building momentum, and which helps you to build a habit and create a routine. It's something that you just do automatically. Now, knowing all of those strategies is going to be helpful, but the reality is that we're not always going to be motivated to do the right things, because motivation comes and goes. It's a fleeted type of energy. Everyone can go to the gym and do the right things when they are highly motivated. But the key to achieve our goals is to be consistent despite how you are feeling, because you're going to have bad days where you feel like skipping your workouts, you don't feel like going to the gym. So what we can do during those times where our motivation is running low and maybe we miss a workout or we don't feel like going to the workout? First strategy that helped me personally is 5 minutes rule and activation energy. We know that starting something is the hardest thing. Once we are in the motion and doing something, it's much easier. We are already doing it, right? And oftentimes you might feel a day during the day where you just don't feel like going to the gym. You're just mentally exhausted. You came back from work, you had a stressful day, and now you're thinking that, man, I have to change, drive to the gym, do this hard workout program that I have scheduled. I have to do the deadlift, the squats, the cardio, all those different things. I just don't feel like it. And your brain creates excuses for you to just be comfortable. So we want to make the starting process easier. So instead of thinking like you have to go to the gym and work out for 1 hour hard, think about, you know what, I don't feel like today, but I'm just gonna go for 5 minutes, maybe do some stretching, mobility, a little bit cardio on the bike, and that's it. Make it easy, like stupid easy. Because the thing is, once you go to the gym, most often than not, once you start moving and exercising, you're gonna realize, I actually can do much more than 5 minutes. And you're gonna probably do 30 minutes or even the whole workout. If not, that's fine, but at least you didn't skip the workout, you've been consistent with it, and you kept the habit loop, the habit alive. The next strategy is reframing the way we see failure. We're gonna have bad days. We're gonna have days where we're gonna miss a workout session or slip on our diet. We're gonna cheat, and that's okay. We don't have to be perfect to be successful, but we have to kind of change our mindset, how we see failure. Instead of self-criticizing ourselves, which will cause more guilt and which cause you to kind of give up because you see yourself as a failure and you start believing that this is maybe something you're not meant to do, which decreases your confidence and kind of breaks your identity. Oftentimes, I personally had days where I had an ice cream, for example, and then I went to this fuck it mode, right? Where I'm like, you know what? I already cheated on my diet, so I might as well just cheat the whole day. And then I've just been eating junk food the whole day because I felt guilty and I kind of give up, and I thought I already cheated, so I might as well just eat bad food all day. We don't want to have that type of a mindset. If you miss on your workouts, if you cheated on your diet, that's okay. Give yourself a grace, forgive yourself, and move on. Also, reflect about what caused you to miss your workout session or slip on your diet. Assess your environment, situations, because then your brain goes to a problem-solving mode, which helps you to keep the habit loop alive instead of self-criticism. So look at the failure as like a scientist. What caused that? What triggered that? So you can be better and improve next time. And the last one is the power of recovery and accountability. your willpower and discipline is limited amount of resources or energy, and if you're not getting enough sleep, recovery, relaxation, if you're just grinding every day all day, eventually you're gonna burn out mentally and physically, which cause you to quit. So recovery, sleep, relaxation is not optional. It's not something that you're doing because you're lazy. You're strategically planning your recovery times and days as a part of this whole process to recharge your batteries, because this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. So it's very important to make sure that you're getting enough sleep, you're nourishing your body, you're eating good quality nutritious foods, maybe supplementing with vitamins, you socializing, spending time with your friends and family and your loved ones, doing something that you enjoy, relax, go for a walk, spend time in nature. Nature is very helpful to lower your stress level. Having conversation, be social with people and your friends that you love and love spending time together. And having your check-ins, check how you're progressing, what's working for you, what's not working for you. So you can develop solutions, adjust your training and nutrition program, and keep improving and keep better, and figure out the struggles that you have and things that you're doing well, and improve. Now, your brain also is gonna create excuses, so we need to be aware of them and build a resilience. One of the most common excuses that we're gonna have is, I'm just too tired. That's oftentimes what my clients are saying. And most of the time, it's not because we are tired physically, it's because we are tired mentally. Because that's understandable, right? We have work obligations, we have to pay bills, family relationship stresses, life stresses, and that depletes your willpower and your mental energy. And most often than that is because we are exhausted mentally than physically, and that's why we're skipping our workouts. That's why we just want to relax, having something pleasurable like ice cream or donuts and watch Netflix. But we have to realize that when we feel exhausted mentally, going to the gym, moving your body, which is gonna increase blood flow to your brain and towards your body, is gonna release dopamine and it's gonna energize you actually. So think about us going to the workout as something that's gonna re-energize you. It's gonna make your body healthier, which is gonna help you to deal with life stressors and obstacles better. And for me personally, when I go to the gym, it's not just only to be healthy, but be more physically capable, more athletic and look better, but also for the mind, to de-stress from the life, so escape. And if you are gonna be aware of that, instead of looking for alcohol, junk food to have the dopamine and pleasure, you're gonna use gym, which is much more productive and effective and healthier for your body. So be aware of that, that's gonna be very helpful. Another excuse sometimes that we create in our mind is, I don't have time. We already talked about this at the beginning of the video, but oftentimes it's not lack of time, it's lack of priority. I see very busy business people or professionals, they oftentimes they say that they don't have time, and I can see how busy they are, but they do have time, for example, watching mindless shows on TV or scrolling on social media or doing different things. And again, oftentimes is your brain creates excuses to make you feel comfortable. But if you prioritizing your health, make time to take care of your body, you're gonna create time, and you don't have much. You don't need to have much to get healthier and work out. Even 30 minutes, 2-3 times a week is much better than nothing. So oftentimes it's not lack of time, it's lack of priority. And another common excuse or that type of a mental framework that people have is perfection mentality or all or nothing mentality. You don't have to be perfect to have good results. Consistency, doing something is much better than trying to be perfect and not doing anything. And the reality is, life is not perfect. Never gonna be perfect time to start working out. There's never gonna be a perfect condition to start doing something. You have to start now. Start slowly, Be consistent with it. Develop habits, develop routines, learn from the process, and then over time start building up, start adding extra habits, start doing a little bit more. And once you see the results, you start celebrating the small wins. Over time, you're developing routine and habits that are become automatic and part of who you are and what you do. But don't have that all or nothing mentality. Give yourself grace. You're gonna miss workout sessions. You're not gonna be perfect with your diet, and that's okay. You're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. But the key is to not give up, be consistent, and learn with the process. So hacks can get you started, but the key is consistency and sustainability for long term. So it's very important to remind yourself again why you're doing this, why it's important to take care of your body. We want to have strong why. It should be more than just losing some weight on the scale. We all know that health is important, so we have to remind ourselves of why we're doing this. It should be the same thing like checking with your doctor, brushing your teeth, checking your blood pressure, taking medications, taking care of your physical appearance. That's part of eating healthy and working out as well. Keep assessing your progress, keep checking on yourself, keep learning with the process, what's working for you, what's not working for you. And you want to enjoy this process. Learn how to love working out, learn how to love eating healthy, and enjoy this whole process. Because if you love something, what do you do? And you can learn how to love those things. You can make those things more enjoyable. So for example, when you're working out, maybe you're listening to your favorite music, or you're working out with your friend and you found a recipes that you actually enjoy, but they're still healthy. You can learn to love this process, and that's gonna also help you to be much more consistent long term. So the reason I wanted to create this video is because from my own experience, I learned that most people are not accomplishing their fitness goals and their health goals. It's not necessarily because of lack of knowledge or access to knowledge, or not necessarily knowing what they have to do. It's just because of habits and their behaviors. Most people know that they have to go to the gym and work out and healthy, but yet they're not doing it. So I hope those strategies that I explained in this video can help you being consistent and actually going after your goals. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that type of content, it would be very helpful to this channel if you click and subscribe, which will help the algorithm to push that type of content to the wider audience and help more people. So thank you so much, and I see you in the next video.